you are listening to Peak One Sports.
Saturday, and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton with Tony, here to get you ready for your sports weekend. What are we thinking of that EA College Football 25 trailer that just dropped yesterday?
And if you didn't get fired up about that, you're not a video game college sports fan. There's no way that doesn't fire you up.
I mean, it still doesn't, all the naysayers, it still doesn't answer, like, is it still going to be, is it a reskin of Madden, which it looks better, but just improved graphics. My thoughts are the same with the GTA 6 trailers that keep dropping. You can make a trailer look as good as you want. That doesn't mean that's how good the gameplay is. But the fact that it's happening, it's on track. I mean, they're basically done for the most part. The game's going to be available in less than 2 months or about 2 months. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just watching people post stuff like, hey, we get actual names. You remember when it would be on the back of the jersey, QB number 14, Texas QB number 14 or whatever. You had to do randomly generated names and crap like that. But we're actually getting real players for the most part. Obviously a few opted out, but man, I'm pumped. I can't wait. I think I'm going to pay the extra $25, $30. I don't know, whatever it costs to pre-order it. The deluxe edition. I don't mess around with the I don't even know what they call the My Teams and all that. I never do. I really don't play online. I might play a little Ultimate Teams. I might play a little bit online because we're going to do some Peak One stuff, live streaming type situations, but I just don't get to play any video games enough to be able to compete with 12-year-olds online and have fun.
I'm a huge fan of franchise modes.
Franchise dynasty modes. Yeah, I hope this has create a school. I'm kind of a nerd. I like to implement different video games.
You can create a school.
I like to implement all the games I play, all the sports games and like city builder games to go all together. But I want to pay the extra so I get it 3 days early. I think it said the 20th, if I'm right, or the 19th. I know it's a Friday, whatever, July 17th through 20th, whatever Friday that is. It's going to be 3 days early, so I'm going to probably mess around. I'll have to think about it because that is during the week. So how much am I really going to get to play it during the week? But we're definitely going to be talking more about that as we come closer.
Yeah, that just watching that trailer and really breaking it down, and you've seen some of the other YouTubers and TikTokers kind of break this down as far as like details, how the details are. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane what this game looks like.
It's great. I hope it's not. I hope there's not a disappointment. I was pumped for it. People our age and a little younger and older who haven't played this game in 10 years or haven't had a new game since the one that came out 10 years ago. Really,
who's the first matchup you put on to play?
It's probably going to be maybe Texas A&M. I'm gonna go ahead and set up. The first thing you do is play exhibition or whatever they're going to call it, just to see how the gameplay is going to work. I'm not going to mess around with Dynasty or franchise or whatever yet. I assume it's the same. You're going to pick your favorite school. I'll pick the Longhorns and whoever it goes against, because this is also the first year it all comes together that Texas is going to play Texas A&M for the first time. And probably about, has it been 10 years, if not longer? It's got to be Texas A&M, I think. And my gosh, I'm going to have to get really good really quick.
As an A&M fan, I hate to say this, but I believe Texas, and this to be true in college football this year, Texas is going to be the team on that game. Like, I think that's the number one team. That is the team, the best team in the game.
If you're looking at the cover, I don't know I don't remember if I saw what the generic game cover is going to look like, but I saw the deluxe edition. Whereas Shadur Sanders, forgive me, I don't even know the Michigan
Travis Hunter.
Travis. Oh, it was
Travis
Hunter. Yeah, that's right. It was Hunter. Not,
Edwards.
no, I said Sanders because we talked about Dion supposedly was upset. I don't even know if that was fake news or not, but
Yeah.
Hunter, yeah, not Sanders. And the Michigan player, which Michigan
Edwards.
Edwards is projected to be like, I think the pre-rank is like, which means nothing. A little bit, but not much. Like 10 or 15. They lost a lot of players, but Texas is the one who has a lot of return. Obviously, your quarterback. Colorado, I hope for college football's sake, is a little bit better.
Yeah.
I hope they keep that hype running. I think it's great for the sport to have I'll say smaller schools. I mean, it's a big time program, but
Yeah, initially, and it may be this way, I think Colorado, or did think Colorado could probably be one of the most popular teams on the game.
yeah, for sure. No,
The way they hype the school, the way they hype the team, I think it's very possible.
There's I'm sure Deion Sanders will be one of the most created coaches because they still haven't made it that far where the coaches aren't going to be the real coaches. You can create them. I know you can't like put Arch Manning in the game with his actual name. They won't even let you change it or create them. Coaches, I'm not sure if you can put their name in there, but you can mess around and be creative. But I think you're right on par. Like you're going to have Texas is going to be, Texas is one of those teams where you either like them or you don't. Similar with Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, even A&M to some extent. Unless you're a casual fan, I don't think you just pick Texas because you either like them or you don't. But Colorado is one of the teams where I guess unless you're Colorado State or maybe what was formerly the Pac-12, a team that just got annoyed, or I guess unless you just hate the Dion hype, you're probably because I bet you I'll play a lot with Colorado because I think they'll have some of the most creative uniform combos, and they're going to be up there with Oregon in this game.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm still getting.
Yeah, I was just going to say
cold.
that Oregon's another team that a lot of people want to play with because of the uniform combinations.
And that's what's good for those. Again, not small. I'd say mid-level programs where they've had success. They're big time programs, but they're not, USC, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, where they're going to wear generic. They have different uniform combos, but they're pretty much generic uniforms, classic uniforms.
Yeah.
And you really only play them if you're a fan of the team. But there's going to be a lot of smaller schools. That's why I think the smaller schools, I hope, did a really good job putting uniforms into this game. Which I know you can go look, and it's like public knowledge. You can go see what people submitted. And we've seen some of that in teaser trailers where that's what a lot of, because every school is in, every Division I school is in here. Is it still called it, or is it FBS? I know they changed it a while back, but 130 whatever schools. And that's just going to improve. I don't know if they're going to come out with a new game every year. I kind of would hope that maybe they skip every other year or something, because you can't go one and done anyways in college football. So you still have opportunities for players to get on there, but you put more into the game. I think with Madden, they've just there's not much changing, some uniform updates, ratings updates, rookies, stuff like that.
We have to be getting close to a point where, especially with Madden or any of these games, I know Landon gets the show every year. He's got every copy of the show. It's like, at what point do we just buy it and then maybe you pay for the upgrades every year?
Yeah, because we're definitely going that way. Like my PlayStation 5 is the digital only that I could do, where it's like just charges $50 or $40 or even less than that and get all the upgrades.
Yeah.
Don't charge us the full, which I can see games are about to be $70, $80 now instead of 60. Inflation hasn't hit the games yet. I think the college football 25 is going to be 70 for the basic one. But games have been $60 for a long time. So I don't know. I think that's a slippery slope too, where you can get lazy, where it's like, maybe every 3 or 4 years just come out with like, okay, new gameplay, new stuff like that. And other than that, you're just update. I mean, because like I said, you're I think college football is a little more exciting where you have freshmen that new coming freshmen, you have um players are going to be good who quite aren't there. They're not starting. They're just going to start their senior year or something like that. I think that, and they said they're going to update ratings throughout the college football season as well, as long as, players are opted in, which
Yeah.
I may be lying. Don't quote me on this. I think it said like 90% of players. I know they couldn't put every player in because they said there was this many opt-ins. And that was more than the final rosters for all. Like if you did the math, how many players you could have by 100 something, there were too many. So I think like 90% of some of them. I know Arch Manning's like the main guy, the best player that, or the most prolific player that opted out. But for the most part, I think every player is in there. But yeah, a lot to talk about. We're going to talk more about that. Again, excuse me, I've had a cold all week. I'm trying to work through that. Thanks for tuning in. However, you're listening. Obviously, we're going to talk late night, early morning hockey, Stars playoffs. Mavs play tonight. But first, say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. Contact Korri and the Dapper Dog Academy on Facebook or call and schedule a consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. Also, don't bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics and get help making your picks using their AI algorithms. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter. Again, thanks for listening. Man, I know you didn't stay up quite late enough to finish watching that Stars game. I'm regretting it a little bit, especially if they would have lost, but the Stars did win despite some controversy. I'm not going to dive deep into it. You can get on our hockey podcast. They're gonna. I'm not sure if they've set a date. They're kind of all over the place, but our weekly hockey podcast, you can get all the details there. But there was some controversy. I'm not a hockey expert, but the Stars did get the win in double overtime, winning 2-1 against Colorado, and winning the series in Game 6 last night.
After that first, I think it was the first goal was in the second period by the Avalanche. I think that's right. Or they get one in the first. I feel like it was, I can't remember when I was watching.
I was watching the Railroaders game and flipping back and forth. So,
but when I saw that, it just seemed like the start of the game, the momentum carried over for the Avalanche into this one.
Yeah, for sure.
And it didn't feel like they could pull this one off. So it's definitely exciting that they were able to figure out a way to get it into overtime and then eventually double overtime to get the win, even with the controversial
no goal
call.
I mean, even outside of the no goal, even outside the no goal, I think the Stars played different in overtime and double overtime. It just seemed like the second half of the second period, which is really when I started watching full time and not flipping back and forth when the Railroaders finished their game, that the Avalanche were just out playing the Stars. They were at home. The pressure was on the Stars. Avalanche had nothing to lose. They were playing, that elimination mindset, and it's just like Stars couldn't clear it. They were just staying in there. I mean, we're getting a lot of shots on goals, but it just, to me, and stats may say otherwise, but my perspective was the puck was on the Stars side of the rink most of the night. But in overtime and double overtime, it was completely different. It felt completely the other way. I felt that they kept missing opportunities. And then they finally, like, really just a few hours ago, it was like just after 1 a.m. when they finally won, and clinching and going back to the Western Conference Finals for the second straight year. And if I have my years right, I think this is the third time in 5 years because they went to the Stanley Cup final in the bubble in 2020. Lost in Game 7 of round 1 a couple of years ago, and then missed the playoffs all in the last 5 years. So, I believe the third conference finals appearance in 5 years, and definitely back to back. And fun fact: every year the Stars have made the Stanley Cup final. 99 when they won it, 2000 when they lost, and obviously 2020 when they lost in the bubble. Every single one of those seasons, they had to go through Colorado to get there. Just saying. Just saying. You defeat Vegas, who took you out last year, wasn't even close. You get through Colorado, and now you're going to take out have a chance to take out one of these Canadian teams. Play tonight in Game 6. I'm going to be cheering for whoever's. I don't even remember if it's Edmonton or Vancouver who's down, but whoever's down 3-2, I'm cheering for them to push through Game 7. To go further, to give the Stars that much extra, because they almost played 3 games, or I mean, 3 extra periods last night. Almost 2 games. It was a 2.5 periods in overtime. So they're exhausted. I don't know if it helps that they were in the altitude now and now coming back, if that, helps long term. I don't know. I know Vancouver isn't in high altitude because they're near the coast. Edmonton might be. I have no idea. They look like they could be in the Canadian Rockies. I'm not sure, but good for the Stars. It just seems like when they play bad, they're right there with the team, and when they play good, they outperform them.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking a lot more hockey, unfortunately for y'all, because we're not hockey experts. But we're going to talk more hockey on the show coming up in hopefully the next few weeks. Take this all the way to the final.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting time for DFW sports.
Which moves into Stars clinched in the Game 6 last night. The Mavs have, or really this morning, the Mavs have a chance to do that tonight. Whereas I have been a little peeved off that the Stars and Mavs have played the same game, same time every night, I thought, well, at least I'm getting a break. I'm at least staying up late because they obviously playing West teams. Like last night, overtime, it's going to be 1 a.m. Now I don't have a break because the Mavericks play tonight. I know they play relatively early, like 7 o'clock, but now I'm going to get a C because I have the opportunity to have to stay up late tonight watching that game to see if the Mavericks can close out Oklahoma City in Game 6 and hopefully continue on as well, because we kind of got our wish with Denver kind of just crapping the bed and Minnesota forcing a Game 7. I think I'd rather have Denver. I think Mavericks match up better than Minnesota. They just don't match up well with Minnesota at all. But I wanted that game to go to Game 7, which will be tomorrow. So if Mavericks can finish it off tonight, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if Mavericks can finish it off tonight, they'll get that extra day break before you have to play Minnesota or Denver again, I guess, heading back to Colorado.
Yeah. I think you're right about the matchup with Denver. I feel that same way. Even this matchup's been a bit weird for them, I feel like, with Oklahoma City. These younger, just super athletic teams at times can be difficult, can be tough for them. One thing, though, we talked about this, I think, in the first round, it still holds true that the Mavericks defense has really been where it's at.
Yeah.
If they make it to the Western Conference and if they make it to the finals, the story of this season will be the way they played defense down the stretch.
Defense, I mean, Gafford and Lively, you just put 2 centers in there, and I'll say it again. I think that has set the tone. And then you have Luka playing like just in Game 5 the other night. Like Luka's hurt. He looks really bad in the first half. He ends up scoring a 30-point triple-double, scoring a few baskets late. But the last couple of drives, he goes in and gets a block. Like normally, Luke isn't. I mean, he didn't play great defense anyways. But when he's in foul trouble or hurt, he's kind of like, "Hey guys, y'all got this. I can't."
Yeah.
And Luke has just been grinding it out. I mean, he's not the most graceful runner anyways. So he kind of looks like he has some sort of limp, generally. But now that he's got his hurt knee with, there's always, blood soaking through the bandage, which if they can make a deep run, it kind of looks, more badass and legendary in, Mavericks history. If, Schilling's bloody sock essence. But he just looks like, I can't believe he scored a 30-point triple double the other night.
Yeah.
Because really he looked bad the whole game up until late in the fourth where he made a couple of threes and then actually played pretty good defense. But yeah, Gafford and Lively, and that's why I think they'll match up better with Denver. Excuse me. Not that they're going to be able to shut down Jokic at all, but I think you can neutralize him, just pull him down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Where I think Minnesota has more weapons, not quite to the level of Jokic, but Anthony Edwards. I mean, there's a lot for Minnesota. I think Minnesota's younger, which I'm surprised they're still in this series, because it's the same with Oklahoma City. They were better than Dallas on paper. But my whole point is you usually don't see those young teams wins. You need some skin on the wall. You need that playoff experience. You need playoff losses. Very few teams just go in and win. Look at LeBron James, how much he had to lose. Dirk Nowitzki, how much he had to lose. Kobe, not so much. This Mavericks team has lost a lot. Minnesota has a little bit. They've had the last couple of years, but haven't made deep runs. Even Denver, forever. Milwaukee. That's usually how it goes. That's why I picked the Mavericks to win in 6 or 7 games. And hopefully they finish that off tonight. And I fully expect Denver to finish off Minnesota in game 7. I don't really want to see Minnesota if they make it that far in the Western Conference Finals anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't even know, I guess game 7 would be Monday, but let's not even look that far. Let's just go all in for Mavericks tonight. Okay. So clickbait, I'm sure this is what everybody is watching this episode for. Harrison Butker speech, Chiefs kicker. He made a commencement speech at a Catholic college this past week. So I was going to pull some clips, but I didn't for a specific reason. Because the clips I saw, I know you sent me some, but I saw a lot of clips. I saw a lot of memes. I saw a lot of people posting. And
I mean, every news outlet has taken this thing and run with it.
And I'm a little disappointed. I'm not going to get political at all. There were some political points made. It was more religious points that happened to take a certain political side. I'm a little disappointed in a lot of people because I set time aside. Like I suspect even popular news outlets, I suspect they didn't watch the whole speech. Celebrities making comments and sharing memes, I know they didn't watch the whole speech because they're picking bits and pieces of what they saw, what they heard. There's nothing wrong with sharing memes and, oh, this is funny, it's a joke, whatever. But if you take a serious opinion and you're seriously trying to critique or, critique somebody, just go watch it. It's a 20-minute speech. So I set time aside. I was going to probably watch it a couple times, take notes. Like I was going to go in on this and like really dig into it. I watched it and I'm wondering what I understand what people are upset about. It's not like it was out of nowhere. It's not like, well, what happened? What did he say? I'm not going to pretend like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I didn't agree with every particular point he made, but there was some over exaggerations on stuff where I saw memes and people sharing and criticizing hateful things towards him before I watched the speech with you know how internet is, everything's true. The meme had a caption of what he said, and he did not say it at all. I can see the misogynistic tone people were taking.
Yeah.
And that's your opinion. That's why I don't really knock anybody for believing anything politically. It's all empathetic. It's all your experiences and what you believe. It's fine. You're going to see things a different way than me sometimes. Um, but he's allowed to say things that other people don't agree with. He didn't say anything hateful. I don't think he said anything overly controversial. When you start talking politically or religiously, sure, it's going to feel controversial to some people. But if he says something you don't agree with, I mean, he didn't hold a press conference and tell people this is how you should feel. He was invited to give a commencement speech to a Catholic school, and him being a Catholic himself said, "Hey, this is how I feel you should live your life as Catholics." Um, and there was a lot to say, "Hey, maybe you should stay in your lane." He was in his lane. He was invited there. He didn't tell anybody that wasn't at that speech or wasn't Catholic, "Hey, you should do this." He said, as Catholics, we should be living this way, you know? And I was waiting to go in there when I was listening to this and hear something derogatory, which I get. The misogynistic views people are making, I'm like, you didn't listen. I'm not going to get involved in those comments and on Facebook, you know, they keyboard Karens, but I'm like, you didn't listen to the speech.
First off,
it's a reach.
Let's put this in a context of where he was at and where you're seeing and where I found these clips on TikTok. And, you know, it must be a very small amount of the country that feels this way, because Harrison Butker now has the #1 jersey sales in the NFL after this speech. You know, with a couple things maybe you could look at as touchy, but I know so many women, you know, and one of the things that he said, we haven't really said, you know, got into that, but one of the things he said is that most of these women came, they got these degrees, but their proudest moments are going to be when they, and this is not verbatim, so I don't have the exact quote in front of me, that when they become a mother and get to stay at home with their children and raise their children, that will be one of the proudest moments in their life.
And he's speaking from experience of his wife.
And you know what? And I'll speak from experience from my wife and most mothers that I do know, is your career is your career, but being with your kids and having an opportunity to raise your family is that. He's not wrong. And
I'm going to turn it.
You know,
I'm going to turn on up. Go ahead.
I don't know what the term is, you know, where you have a chauvinistic male, whatever the term is in the female sense, those are the ones that are getting upset. Those females that are completely career driven, maybe they have families, maybe they don't. They're 100% career driven, and that their family isn't #1 and they have that opportunity. I mean, even as a male, if you have that opportunity to spend more time with your kids, to, you know, to be involved in raising your kids and be in their lives from a young age, that's important. And I could say if I had that opportunity, I probably could say that was my, you know, my happiest moment in life, most rewarding point in my life, because a career is just a career. Like, so what? Who are you trying to impress and prove something to?
And my first role is husband and father. I have multiple side hustles and jobs. I don't look at myself as a podcaster and then I'm a husband and a father. I look at it the same way. Yeah, overall, you know, I know society's drawn towards men work, women can stay home, or the first option. My wife has a job. She'll tell you every day she wants me to make more money and she just quit. But we like the extra money, and I'm not going to stop her. I like her having extra money. It'd be more convenient if she did stay home or whatever. I promise you, she made more money than me. She wouldn't tell me to be a stay-at-home dad. She would never allow me to be stay-at-home while she has to work. But women are different. I mean, there are other women are different that don't feel that way. But he was nothing in that speech, and he may be a misogynistic, hey, you need to women stay at home type guy, but nothing in that speech made me think that. He was speaking from the perspective of his wife, saying she had goals to in her career. The fact that he's a professional football player probably switches her where she doesn't have to, I mean, obviously doesn't have to work, where maybe she's a little more career driven. I mean, when you're in a situation where money's not really an issue, things change. I mean, honestly, I have certain skills and educations outside of podcasting where if I won the lottery or got a huge inheritance, I would push other side hustles in podcasting more and say, screw all that. I don't need that career. As the same as my wife would probably want to say, hey, I'm going to focus on raising the kids and everything. Where they go with celebrities, the media, everybody's going towards it, hateful towards this. And I don't want to turn this political. This shouldn't be right versus left. I know he did make pro-life statements, which makes sense. He's Catholic. He did make birth control statements. He did make, there are some that I don't completely necessarily agree with. IVF, because that's how we had our second child. But I understand his point of view. They feel like it's playing God. I'm not going to argue with that. To some extent, it might be. But I'm not going to pull that one little clip and say Harrison Buckner's against IVF. Screw you, dude. My second son was
Yeah.
But look at the audience. This was a private Catholic commencement speech that happened to be filmed. Who the hell cares? That it's like it's almost like, hey, I mean, he knew he was being filmed. Nothing was private. He didn't say anything overly ridiculous. But when you get caught saying something, there have been those hot mic moments. I'm like, well, he didn't know he was being filmed. This is ridiculous. He knew he was being filmed, but he didn't expect in a million years that more than 5,000 to 10,000 people would ever see this. And I think that's kind of where it is. He's talking, look at the audience. And what's funny is, like, I wasn't going to take any controversial clips anyways, but I was going to not be that part of the media. Like, hey, I'm going to take the clips that I feel like back my point up, which is why I didn't at all. Every negative clip I saw, not once showed the end of that speech, or it would cut it off right at the end, or he got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And if you had a private Muslim university and a high profile Muslim football player wanted to go and make a speech and he didn't say anything hateful or controversial, but you didn't agree with it, you're kind of in the same camp.
Yeah.
Harrison Buckner didn't go on social media. Like, maybe he shared the speech, I don't know, but he didn't go. He was talking to, like, if I get filmed telling my family something that's not hateful, you could say it's controversial to what some people believe.
Yeah.
But he wasn't telling it. Again, the stay in your lane. There are comedians and celebrities that were saying, maybe you should stay in your lane. He was in his lane. He wasn't speaking to anybody outside that commencement speech. And that's the problem. I don't care what
you can
he
look
said.
at it. It was a private conversation. It was a private conversation that happened to be filmed because of the setting that he was in. I mean, how many of these, which I guess this is more of a new thing to post, and I know that commencement speeches, you typically bring in somebody, a big name, a big face.
It was
but
a private
I see a lot of them
Kansas.
now. I guess social media has really pushed to where now you see a lot of them more. I mean, I've been seeing the entire TikTok reels full of them, of all different schools, different people. But it is a private setting, and they bring someone back, whether it was a alum that has made it big, is a big name now, or in this situation, he's a practicing Catholic coming back to a Catholic school to make this commencement speech. Like, it's a private setting, and he's exactly where he should be, speaking about what he's speaking about. You've never heard him speak like this to the public media.
And I'm trying to think of an alternative, because I get what the NFL did, posting, hey, because there was a petition, cut him, whatever. The Kansas City Chiefs shared a post, or made a post, that they shouldn't have made. I have no problem with the NFL saying we don't agree, whatever. That's fine. I'm trying to think. Okay, so let's use Apogee Grafix. Apogee Grafix is an example. I'm higher up in Apogee Grafix, and he is as the Kansas City Chiefs, or the NFL. If I on one of my shows, see, that's not even comparable, because that's open audience. But if I was made to give a public speech to somebody and I said something that you didn't agree with as the CEO of Apogee Grafix, would you have to go out of your way to make a post saying, I don't necessarily, or we don't agree with comments Ashton made. Now, if I said it on this show and it was really controversial, I get it. But if I'm just talking to somebody, a speech for that audience, like the NFL says, we do not agree with what he says. Well, no shit. Who cares? Are you're at he's telling,
you're the most liberal organization in the country.
and that's not even,
of course you don't
agreed.
agree with what he said.
That's not even it though. It's he was telling Catholics how they should live.
Yeah.
And
which is exactly how they practice. That
exactly how you practice. And he didn't say anything that was like, holy crap, Catholics believe that. There's nothing there. Like, you could look, I guess, at Christian or Catholic lifestyles that are more misogynistic, if you want to even use that word. I think it's a little dramatic, because usually when you're talking about feminism and which there's nothing wrong with I'm not knocking on feminism or women having careers or like, oh yeah, women needs a man or anything like that at all. Nothing against that. But when you get to that side of the spectrum, typically you see it on a Christian Catholic side, more strict rules, more old school rules, if you will. And I'm Christian myself, so I'm not dogging any side. So of course, it's like, if you go and listen to a Donald Trump speech or even a Joe Biden speech and you don't agree with that person, do you think you might get a little upset at what they say? And if somebody wants, and there are people that listen to this stuff saying, I'm going to take what I can out of context. I promise you, they do this. I'm not telling you, I'm telling our listeners, they do this. The media, everybody knows the media does this. I'm not going to lie about it necessarily, but I'm going to make clickbait. I'm going to post memes that aren't necessarily wrong and watch people share them, because that's how we share our news state, with reels, memes. We take half truths of what people said and share them. And if you want to share funny memes about Harrison Butker being misogynistic, whatever, I don't care. Some of them are actually kind of funny, even though it doesn't make any sense. But if you're going to take, share those memes and put like, I can't believe crap, he'd say this, what if he broke his leg and now his wife has to work? How would he feel? Like, I'm sure he'd be fine if his wife had to work. He has nothing.
This is something we brought up years ago through COVID. This right here, this is the new TV. This is your news outlet. This is all of that. All of that in one now.
That's how I watched the entire speech. Its speech in its entirety was on that phone too. So I'm gonna go to an extent, which if you don't have a podcast, I know I'm in a little different situation. Like, I wanted to go out and I can't talk about this without watching it in its entirety. And again, I was revved up because I was led to believe it was worse because I saw memes. I saw little points where they, a 5-second clip where it's like, I wonder what, the context was. I've seen, and I've seen blatant lies on memes. And again, I'm trying not to get political at all, because that's not the point. You get in there and talk about it. If you want to make any sort of opinion, not you can have whatever opinion you want, but if you want to post something, if you want to tell people like, hey, this is my opinion, this is my thoughts, don't be lazy. Take 20 minutes, go watch the speech. Don't tell me it changed your point of view or changed your political beliefs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. That's not the point. I'm challenging somebody, please, somebody who's agreeing with me, who I know is commenting, telling me I'm an idiot, I'm a racist, whatever. I've been called left wing, right. I've been called everything. Go watch that speech and tell me you still believe something he said was outrageous. Because it's just lazy if you don't. It's the different. Okay, yeah, you're not watching a 30-second reel. I get it. Short attention spans these days. Go watch the speech.
Yeah, no, because you take that out of context of what he says about women staying at home. If you don't listen to the entire speech, you don't understand what he's trying to get at. Is you were sold, which I think all kids are sold this in college, and that's a whole other topic. But that you were sold that this is what you have to do. You have to go build a career for yourself. You have to do that. You have to do that. Well, you know what? Being a stay-at-home mom is a career. That's more than a full-time job. That's a nonstop job.
I would never want to be a stay-at-home dad. I mean, outside of like being able to do this and, side deals that would give me time to do that. But I believe that the family unit obviously depends on the situation. If you're a healthy family unit, I believe benefits from having a stay-at-home parent because both my wife and I work, multiple side stuff going on. It gets stressful, crazy. You know this too. It gets with your family as well. It gets crazy. You're like, man, we just want to sit down and have dinner, eat healthy. I mean, there's so many studies done that when you have time to focus, one parent has time to focus on the home, it's just a better situation. And it could be father, mother, it doesn't matter. Whoever, I would say whoever's happier working, whoever's making more money in general. But I would never want to be a stay-at-home dad because I used to work at a school district at the time, and we didn't even have kids. But I worked at a school district where when I first got married, I was off in the summer, and my wife worked, and the house was on, which it wasn't a lot of work, but I did not like my responsibility. It's only my responsibility to do all this stuff, and I didn't like that. That is a hard job, and now add kids and I have a flexible work schedule where some of that falls on me too. Now that, doctor's appointments, stuff like that, where being a stay-at-home mom is one of the hardest jobs in the world in its own realm. I think that's the point he was making in general, was a good Christian, anybody on here tell me you wouldn't like to have dinner sit around at the dinner table every single night with your family. And we know in busy lives, especially in a 2-parent working household, or God forbid, a 1-parent household, that is nearly impossible to do every night. And he's just speaking towards Catholic values, which again, outside of saying anything hateful or overly controversial, he is talking to a Catholic audience. It's like if you would have caught him giving a sermon at church and then breaking it down just because he happens to be the kicker of a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
If he doesn't say anything hateful, hurtful, controversial, what are we talking about here?
Well, one of the things that did surprise me is Whoopi came out and actually defended him in his comments. Yeah. And that's one that she typically takes every opportunity she can to make jabs at those types of situations. And even she saw through that.
And that's why I'm saying this is a less political. The statements he made do tend to favor politically right wing,
yeah,
the right wing side. And I have been proud of, if you want to say our society, I've been proud of a lot of people that it's not your normal, oh my gosh, there are some people that are right wing or left wing and they either went against him or for him regardless. And I think that's always dangerous. You should never just pick, like every time there's an incident with a cop and an unarmed person, or a story with a golfer we're about to get to, where because of your political beliefs, you like, okay, where are we at on this? What side are we on? And that's dangerous. And there has been some of that. I think overly, we've done a good job as a society in this story, not making it too political. Like it's mostly just sharing memes without getting the whole story. But I've seen some people who are in the right wing side that I've noticed said like, oh, I wouldn't have said that. And I'm like, oh, really? Oh, this
is a perfect example of no publicity is bad publicity. It's like I mentioned that his jersey sales, he's the top jersey sales now just from this alone.
Yeah, and I haven't seen a lot of cross negativity, whereas you're either posting negative or positive. I haven't seen people grabbing, maybe they're out there, but I haven't seen them sharing top jersey sale posts and saying, this is just how bad our country is or anything like that, which is good. I think it's coming. I don't know. I don't think this has gotten quite that high. It has gotten a little controversial. I mean, we're talking about a kicker in the NFL for longer than we ever have before.
I know he riled up the Swifties a little bit for quoting one of the lyrics in one of Taylor Swift's songs, and they were saying you took that out of context. It's like, well, great, good. I'm glad you agree that it can be taken out of context because the way you're doing me as well. So,
man, I would hope the day never comes that I get canceled. I don't think we're ever going to get big enough for that to matter. Um, as you can see, this is as controversial as I'm ever probably going to get. I'm not going to talk politics. I've been asked to talk politics, and uh, I've been criticized both ways for and never really talking politics. This is the craziest I'll get, but I'm hoping nothing ever comes out of context because I don't think what he said was necessarily bold. Maybe we're just in that day and age where speaking your truth, I'm not saying everything he said I agree with, but speaking your truth doesn't necessarily mean the truth to
Yeah.
everybody. Speaking your truth is going to get you. Um, and it was, like I said, it wasn't a press conference after a game. He's never. I've never seen him. I mean, he's a kicker, obviously, so there's not a lot of press time he gets necessarily, but it seems like he's never pushed this on people in general. He's never tried to convert people to Catholicism or anything. I have no problem. Even if I disagreed with everything he said, I have no problem with what he said. And I hope there's another controversy that comes up that's completely skewed the other way. So we can come on here and I can tell you, I
It
have no
doesn't bother
problem
me.
anyway. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I disagree with what he says or whatever, one way or the other. And there were a couple of things I disagree with him. Like, why are we caring? You're taking, don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mean,
Well, I mean, he
come on,
made some
people.
comments about Pride Month and things, and it's like, yeah, I
I
don't have the
look
issues with that
look at your
obviously he
look at your
does.
audience.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He didn't say you could get a lot more hateful talking about that. And there, I'll just say that there's never room for hate speech. I don't care
Well,
how much you
and
agree or
the way he
disagree
put
with
that,
something, never be hateful towards anything. But if I have a belief that most people don't, which I'm pretty down the mid, not down the middle, but I'm pretty consider like I don't think I could say anything that I believe that would really rile anybody up anyways. But if I said something that's not crazy, that's, to my family or to my church or to whatever that most people don't agree with, are you really that mad? Like I don't know. I I don't want to get down that uh slippery slope. But again, that's fine. That's why I understand he did say things that were like on the like I guarantee you lots of people did not like a lot of the stuff he said. Okay, free speech. There are a lot more hateful stuff said every single day.
yeah.
Go back to it. Nothing hateful, nothing overly offensive was said, and look at the audience. Those are my 3 points. Comment down below. Tell me how big of an idiot I am, I guess. Anything else on
No
that
bigger
speech?
idiot than Scheffler.
Yeah, we got to get into that. The Scotty Scheffler of Dallas. Just gonna throw that out there because we're a DFW based network. Number one world ranked golfer. He doesn't have the obviously the aura of Tiger Woods, but it has a lot of Tiger Woods vibes to it.
Yeah.
Where I'm sure everyone's heard. We're just gonna get into it a little bit. Scotty Scheffler was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky on Friday morning before the second round of the PGA Championship after trying to drive into the entrance of the Valhalla Golf Club, which is where the PGA Championship is happening. A couple of headlines I saw before I read the story was misleading. I thought he had hit somebody and killed them. I was like, oh, that's bad. But there was an incident before he got there where a pedestrian was struck by a bus, I believe. It was a fatality crash, so there's a lot of confusion, a lot of craziness. But traffic outside the golf course had been stopped after a man was struck and killed, yes, by a shuttle bus early that morning. I'll give you Scheffler's quote in a minute. But basically, he supposedly didn't stop for a cop who said to stop. Like, I haven't seen any videos, but I heard the cop was hanging onto the car and he kept driving and all this craziness. But Scheffler faces charges of second-degree assault on a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer, directing traffic. The assault charge is a felony. The others are misdemeanors, which we all know you get trumped up charges and you go through there.
Because
Not that he doesn't. Yeah, not that he deserves or doesn't deserve any of this. Again, I don't know. I'm just reporting what happened. I haven't dug as deep into this as I did the Harrison Butker speech. But Scheffler did say Friday, this morning I was proceeding as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably. So considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier, there was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. I would never intended to disregard any of the instructions. I'm hopeful to put this to the side and focus on golf today. Again, I mean, his lawyer probably wrote that, publicist, whatever. I'm sure there's a little bit of truth to it where I think it's, hey, I'm supposed to be here. I'm a golfer.
Well, his attorney came out and said that one cop directed him to go on and proceed however he was. Then when he gets to that point, another cop, I guess, stopped him. He's like, no, you can't. He's like, I'm just trying to go play. Like I have a time to be here. I have to go play.
And I'm sure nobody in this story that we've heard is 100% true, 100% innocent. I think there was frustration on the side, which we all get in situations like that. I didn't see. Apparently, there's a video. I heard a cop was on his hood while he was driving. I don't know, but I think it was a little frustration. I have to be here. I'm Scotty Scheffler. Do you know who I am? Type situations. Not as asshole as that may sound. And then probably a cop did tell him like, hey, hold on, maybe you should go. And then there was a lot of confusion. Either way, Scheffler did get booked in, get a mug shot, and get out of jail the same day and went and shot 5 under for the day, which I'm completely jealous of. Like I couldn't sniff 5 under ever.
He said he was going through his complete pre-round workout in the jail cell, preparing for the opportunity that he might get to play. He was stretching and going through his pre-round routine.
Yeah, I can't wait for a video to drop of that. Him in his orange jumpsuit chipping in the golf cell. I saw a lot of funny memes like Tiger Woods showing. I think it was a Tom Brady meme when someone was showing up and he was getting a big face, and it's like, this is Tiger Woods when Scheffler showed up to the golf course, and yeah, it was fun. I can't believe he went in there and shot 5 under after all of that, because I don't know his personality necessarily, but I've never been arrested, and if I ever do, I'm sure I'm going to be scared to a ridiculous amount depending on the situation. Like I've never done this. I have no idea what's going on. To get out of that mindset, like, first of all, you're trying to get in the golf course because he was already going there, so knock off 4 hours, however long, of prep time at the golf course, getting in your mindset. He just goes out. I don't know how long he got there before he teed off, but he'd probably be winning right now if none of this ever happened. And I don't even mean to joke about it. It was involved in a fatality accident earlier that day. Even Scheffler said it was a tragic situation. I'm not defending Scheffler at all. He had nothing to do with the fatality. I think, sort of like the Harrison Butker speech, this has been overblown. I think there was a lot of confusion. Scheffler did something stupid. Probably made a mistake that all of us easily could have made. He just happened to probably bump an officer or drag an officer a little bit. I don't know the extent. When you tell me assault and all this, it's like I got pulled over one time and reached to get my license out of my center console. Cop drew his gun and handcuffed me, pulled me out and handcuffed me. Sometimes he gets exempt, and I'm white. Yeah, that's
wow.
No, I mean, this was, you know all about that. Like,
it must not be in this state.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, according to their story, I guess I understand. And
it's in that thunder state.
Yeah, and I support cops. I get it. You don't want people reaching other places, but I'm like, oh my gosh, you're pulling. I had an issue getting pulled over for dumb reasons and never getting in trouble because I was never doing anything illegal. but I can understand where you mess with a cop more than a citizen, charges get extended and upgraded as it should be in certain situations, nothing like that. So that's why it's hard to understand. And again, I didn't even know we are going to talk about this necessarily this long. I wanted to touch on it. So I thought it was more valuable in my time to talk about the Harrison Butker speech. So let me know below what 99% of the time, maybe not quite that often, it's always somewhere in the middle. It's never completely one way or the other. But again, Scheffler did shoot 5 under. He's tied for 4th at 9 under going in to the 3rd round. That's all our controversial topics. So a couple of interesting deals. The Jaguars and the city of Jacksonville agreed on a $1.4 billion stadium of the future. Got a few pictures here. Again, these are renderings, as we know with Globe Life Field in Arlington. Take it with a grain of salt. But this does include shade on all seats, 360-degree concourse, wider concourses, increased space for football operations, better vertical transportation. This is obviously a rendering of a Georgia-Florida game where they do play at the current Jaguar Stadium in a neutral site game. So this looks pretty awesome. You see stadiums are just getting...
So is this like, I'm assuming they hired the same architect that the Chargers and Rams hired? I mean, this looks like just a knockoff of that. I mean, just another stadium.
It does. And
I mean, it's really cool. Don't get me wrong.
This is gonna, they take. I mean, this to me, this looks like the Bears stadium to an extent. The new Bears stadium that they have renderings of. I think they usually don't start from scratch on these, right? They're just throwing these out there, and I like it. I hope it looks close to this. Oh, because this one looks really cool. Yeah. But man, this does not look like a one.
It sure makes Cowboys Stadium. Cowboys Stadium was so far ahead of its time. Well, AT&T Stadium now that it is nowhere near this.
Go through these pictures one more time. Yeah.
Yeah, it does look good.
I'm one to want to keep history and stay in stadiums long. Like I'm a huge nerd for like the Knicks playing Madison Square Gardens, the Packers playing Lambeau Field. Like,
yeah,
I hope that the Cowboys don't decide in 20 years to just I want them to keep updating, because I don't think Cowboy Stadium looks like a dump or anything. It doesn't look this extravagant to any extent. I assume this still has to go through a voting process. This isn't final or anything like that. Obviously, these are just renderings. I like how Cowboy Stadium looks. Like, it still looks futuristic enough where it's not, like, nothing against these stadiums, but Eagles Stadium, Ravens Stadium, Brown Stadium, that open air, Steelers Stadium, where they were built in the early 2000s, where you're still, I mean, it's a stadium. Like, I think Cowboy Stadium, unless they have issues retaining events, which they got a lot of events early on, and they've kind of, obviously Super Bowls. Yeah, I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with the stadium. Maybe it's the seating issue they had, but they're still getting major events, and I, stick with your stadium, especially when it's iconic. And I think AT&T Stadium's getting to that point. If you could play, some NFC Championships games there, Jerry, it would help a little bit, but it's getting to that iconic level where, like, just keep playing. Like, you can make, I know Wrigley Field and Fenway Park are pretty much dumps. I mean, I know they keep them to certain levels. I mean, it's hard when FedEx Field was built 30 years ago, not even 30 years ago, and that is a complete dump. Mm-hmm. Keep up your stadium. But I think Cowboy Stadium has the look. The Cowboys have the money. They can keep upgrading, and there's nothing, wrong with it at all. They, on something you can't fix, like, it doesn't look as nice as this or that, but there's not major issues where, the ballpark in Arlington for the Rangers did not have a roof. And you're like, well, for the same price of putting a retractable roof, we could just build a new stadium. And again, technology could advance so far to be like, well, dang, we didn't even know we needed this. But is a little bit of jealousy, but at the same time, I think
I do like the idea of these new stadiums now, though. Instead of going with the jumbotrons there in the center, they're doing the screens all around, the curved. I like that. I think Cowboy Stadium could actually benefit from a change like that.
Yeah, and you said the era or the time that they were built, I think they were built just the right time. I mean, they could have been built a couple years later, but I don't think they got screwed to an extent. I think the ballpark in Arlington, to go, make a Rangers reference again, that was built about 5 years too early because the retractable roofs, a lot more technology went in after that, where they built it just a little bit too soon, and that's why you needed to make the upgrade. I think Cowboy Stadium was built just late enough where you saw that futuristic. It was kind of the model at the time when it was built. It was a new type of stadium, whereas you're still kind of in that, and you can still, obviously it's compared to this. Let's bring this up again. Compared to this, it's obviously you're going to pick this as looking more beautiful, but again, this is a rendering.
And you could say the same for the Colts stadium, the Vikings. At the times, those were ahead of their time a little bit, and now not as much.
The Colts. I mean, it looks like a big warehouse, but that's the idea. Ford Field, also, that's a little bit older, but it wants to, it's paying homage to the
industrial workers,
the industrial worker areas they're in. And I think there's whereas Jerry Jones has done a good job of keeping the Cowboys in the, this isn't a Cowboys bashing show right now. So to give him
not
props
today.
for keeping not today, for keeping the Cowboys in the media, top rank, top watch, most valuable, despite not winning championships. I hope he just keeps working on that stadium and, whatever succession plans they have for the Cowboys, that they keep that. And if the idea is to get events in that stadium, I get it. I still think you'll do that. I just don't want them to say like, oh, in 20 years, be like, oh, we're going to, destroy the stadium, because it's really, it's getting there. It's about 15 years old, 15 years old now. So you say in another 20 years, that's not necessarily a young life for a stadium. And I know they just did a few $100 million of improvements, and I just hope that keeps going, because even if you don't change like the exterior look, I still think it's for more or less going to be timeless of how you built it.
Yeah,
it still looks good. Real quick, we'll get on a couple of these. Let's make fun of some uniforms here, or I guess just one. The Dodgers new City Connect uniforms right here. We're just going to share this meme. You can read that. City Connect uniforms as Pop-Tarts. 1, Los Angeles Dodgers, blueberry. I didn't do a lot of research on this jersey. I don't know why it has these little specks on it. It does look like a blueberry Pop-Tart. Maybe trying to do something different instead of pinstripes, as, hey, we're going to have dots all over it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily dislike these uniforms.
No.
But
it doesn't look bad.
But agreed. I wish they would have given us a list, though. Let's look at more Pop-Tarts, right? And then you brought this one to me. These are oddly good. I like these uniforms. The New York Giants 100th anniversary uniforms.
Yeah.
I could do without the gold pants, but
so
again, this is I don't know if this is how close this is to their original uniforms, but
no, I should have sent you that one as well. So the pants are like and the pants and sock combination is like from 1938, and then the jerseys from like 1933, and then the helmets from like 1935 or something. Like, it's a combination.
I like the helmet. I like the helmet.
Yeah, so the helmet, and they showed this, and they kind of highlighted each one when they showed the eras. This was like an old leather helmet. That's what the leather helmets looked like.
Yep.
And then that's what the jerseys look like of that year. And then the pant and sock combination is what they look like in another era. I actually like it. I think it comes together well. I'm kind of digging the gold pants. I think it's more of like a off-white, like
Yeah.
a vintage, brown or something that they would have worn in that era. I actually don't hate this look at all.
The jerseys are good. It kind of gives, it almost gives that the vibes of the Steelers Bumblebee uniforms, which are hideous.
Yeah.
Or I guess the sky blue and yellow Eagles uniforms.
Yeah.
But wearing these on the field, I don't think these are hideous at all.
All the new uniforms and all the concepts we've seen come out and all the City Connects and all these things. And this is I would say one of the top ranked uniforms in all of sports, in my opinion.
As far as alternatives go. I mean,
I think of any. I mean, they did a really good job with these.
We're in an era of paying homage to things where everything that you're getting Super Bowl or just championship rings in general. Hey, this many stones mean this whatever.
Yeah,
and that's what we're doing here. And I guess if you don't have that context, you're like, what are you doing here? But it makes sense that we're going with the leather football helmet look. Those jerseys, which aren't hideous, so obviously not modern. To say this is an alternate uniform, which I guess could be. I mean, they play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. This could very well be the uniforms they wear.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible looking. I do like it. Like looking at it. I'm just trying to find. That's to say, I oddly enjoy looking at this uniform.
I would say, personally, for me, being in, and you could maybe say this too, being in the design industry, don't be surprised if you see more looks like this in football and maybe sports too, and all of sports, especially trickling down to college and the youth level. Don't be surprised if you see more come out like this. I think this could be a solid design for a full-time uniform for a team. I think it's really good.
I like that they made a helmet choice and it wasn't the NY or the Giants.
Yeah.
Where it says Giants on the side. I like that the throwback uniforms they had been wearing annoyed me a little bit because the helmet was a darker blue than the jersey. That's just something that gets on my nerves. This is, again, it's not a modern look, but it is refreshing.
Yes.
Because it's completely, it almost goes back to, like I was saying, those throwback Eagles and Steelers uniforms. But it's not like, what the hell are you doing? These are an interesting look, and I get it. They're not going to wear these every game. They might wear these once or twice this year. And I think, and there are going to be people that hate on these uniforms, and I'm not going to blame them. I understand. But it's very aesthetically pleasing.
But think about if
you don't get a lot.
If a team had this uniform set and you did like another alternate to this design, like in a white, maybe with the blue or red across the chest area. I mean, I think that's a real refreshing look that we just haven't seen.
Yeah. And to the extent I don't know what the original jersey looked like when they wore it. I'm sure this is a different concept, but
it was almost identical to this, the way they showed it.
Okay.
Yeah, they showed
because this does the vibe I get from this jersey are like not quite UFL, but maybe like NFL Europe back in the day where they tried some weird stripe patterns. But I think this kind of works.
Yeah, this is almost identical to that. And the helmet's almost identical to the leather helmet of the time.
I can see a jersey style like this. If you change the pants and the helmet to match that style somehow, where you had the horizontal striping somehow, where you met, I could see this being a modern uniform. I can't see them using gold or that off-white color unless that's one of your primary colors as a modern uniform. And the helmet, it's like that's been done so many times, like Michigan, again, Philly throwback uniforms. But the jersey, it's just different, something you don't normally see. But
and I kind of like the concept. I think it's kind of cool to to have all these helmets that are the same, just like they used to be with that leather look, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I really like the throwback look. I wouldn't be sad to see a lot of teams do some throwback looks very similar to this. Because, you know, you think about back in the day, they had all the same uniform. There wasn't all these new different concepts. Everyone just kind of wore the same thing with different opposing colors.
Exactly. And no, I totally agree. Give us your thoughts, comment down below. You like these uniforms, don't like these uniforms. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like this this video. If you don't like it, hit the like button twice. Share with your enemies. Share, subscribe, all that jazz. Thanks for tuning in this week. And with Tony, I'm Ashton. We'll be back next Saturday. See you guys later.
Hey, have a good weekend.